Prosecutors charged a man and a woman with murder after a 30-year-old woman was stabbed to death Saturday night in Highbridge. It was a gruesome scene. Police say one of the suspects held the victim against her will as the other suspect fatally stabbed her in the face and abdomen.
From court this afternoon, that 30-year-old Shashamanie Thompson actually identified her killer when police arrived here on the scene. Investigators say that 24-year-old Beyonce Johnson stabbed her in the stomach and in the eye while the boyfriend held the victim back. And one neighbor told us they used to be friends.
I was home with my girlfriend and I heard yelling, a lot of yelling. I heard somebody screaming, "Help me." I think it happened in the elevator.
For Shashamanie Thompson, it was the voice of her 9-year-old son, ringing through the phone the night before everything changed. A promise of tomorrow that would never come. Less than 24 hours later, on a cold December night in a Bronx apartment building, a routine elevator ride became a death trap. The door slid shut on a mother, a birthday celebration, and a neighborly feud that had simmered for too long. When they opened again, Shashamanie was bleeding out on the lobby floor. But with her final breaths, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She gave detectives a forward key to her killer, the girl in 6D. This is the story of how a place meant to bring you home can become the scene of your murder, and how the echoes of a child's goodnight call are all a family is left. Before we get into the devastating details, if you're new to the community here at True Crime Unraveled, make sure you're subscribed. We read every single comment on YouTube and across our platforms on Facebook and TikTok as True Crime Unraveled TV. Your theories and engagement are what drive this channel. Now, let's unravel what happened. To understand the tragedy, you have to know who was lost. Shashamanie Thompson was 30. An immigrant from Jamaica, she was, in her father Mark's words, that special spice in the pot. She was the kind of person who filled a room, funny, a passionate lover of art and dance and music, a great cook. But her central role, her everything, was being a mom. Her son was her world. He was spending the Christmas holidays with his grandparents, a normal family arrangement. That last phone call, that sweet, unprompted "I love you," made her so happy. She thought it was the most precious thing. It was their last conversation. Her life wasn't a fairy tale. Public records show she had prior arrests, including for assault. She was a complex person living a real life in a crowded New York City apartment building. And in that building, on Ogden Avenue in Highbridge, your neighbors aren't just faces in the hall. They're the architecture of your daily life. Your conflicts are shared walls and shared air. The conflict here, reportedly, was an old and tired one, a dog. Shashamanie neighbors said, would sometimes let her dog into the hallway. For some in the building, this was a nuisance. 24-year-old Beyonce Johnson, who lived in apartment 6D, was one of those neighbors. She told police that people had snitched to building management about it. Here's the first gut-wrenching twist. By the time of the attack, Shashamanie had already rehomed the dog. The tangible problem was gone. But the bitterness? That had taken root. So, what happens when the reason for a feud disappears, but the anger doesn't? Where does that energy go? December 27th, 2025. A Saturday night. For Beyonce Johnson, it was her 24th birthday. For Shashamanie Thompson, it was another evening. Around 10 p.m., their paths crossed in the building's lobby. A confrontation sparked. We don't know who said what, but we know it escalated. The three of them, Shashamanie, Beyonce, and Beyonce's 21-year-old boyfriend, Saleh Ceesay, entered the elevator together. Imagine the space. A 7-by-7-foot metal box. Nowhere to go. The doors close. What was a heated argument in the open lobby now has the terrifying acoustics of a sealed chamber. According to prosecutors, this is when a fight turned into an execution. They allege that Saleh Ceesay put Shashamanie in a headlock, holding her. They say Beyonce Johnson then pulled a knife from her purse. In that tight, terrible space, prosecutors state Johnson stabbed Shashamanie Thompson multiple times in the abdomen and brutally in the left eye. Neighbors heard the sounds. Not just arguing. Screams. A woman yelling, "Help me." The audio from the elevator, sources say, captured Johnson screaming, I will kill you.
I was home with my girlfriend and I heard yelling, a lot of yelling. I heard somebody screaming, help me. I think it happened in the elevator. I heard a girl yelling and I heard the guy, I don't know if that was a boyfriend or whatever, but I heard them fighting. And I heard her screaming for help.
Then the elevator doors opened on the 6th floor. And in an act of cold finality, the couple allegedly threw Shashamanie's bleeding body out of the cab and onto the hallway floor. They left her there. They went to apartment 6D. But Shashamanie Thompson was a fighter. Her father said it himself. She don't give up. Somehow, she made it down the stairs to the lobby. A neighbor found her covered in blood, clutching her stomach, a deep slash on her face. She collapsed. That neighbor asked her the only question that mattered. Who stabbed you? Her answer wasn't emotional. It was factual. It was directive. The girl in 60 did this. Beyonce Johnson. With that, she gave the police a roadmap. Police moved fast. They found Saleh Ceesay and Beyonce Johnson. When they arrested Ceesay, he was still wearing the sweatpants from that night, stained with what appeared to be Shashamanie's blood. His defense was simple. He was just trying to break up a fight. He claimed Shashamanie had a bottle. He said he didn't know his girlfriend had a knife. He was arraigned quickly, order held without bail. Beyonce Johnson's situation was more complicated. When police took her in, her statement was a chaotic mix of confession and explanation. She reportedly said, "I'm bipolar. I didn't take my medication." Then, the haunting question, is she really gone? And the stark admission, send me to jail. I did something bad. She was taken to a hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Her bipolar diagnosis became a central part of her narrative. Because of her hospitalization, her formal arraignment on murder and manslaughter charges hasn't happened yet. A judge had to go to her hospital bedside to order her held without bail. Saleh Ceesay's trial is proceeding, but Beyonce's court date is still up in the air, pending her medical status. This raises hard questions that don't have easy answers. How does mental health intersect with violent crime? Does it explain, or does it contextualize? Can it ever excuse? The legal system is now tasked with untangling that knot, while Shashamanie's family is tasked only with grieving. The true weight of this crime is measured in the silence that follows. The empty seat at the table. Mark Thompson, Shashamanie's father, had just picked up his grandson for the holidays. Their plan was a family New Year's. Instead, he was planning a funeral and setting up a GoFundMe to support a boy who lost his mother. His statement to the press is a portrait of a parent's specific agony. She was a lovely person, a good heart, a strong person. She's a fighter. Then, the painful logic of a grieving father. For that to happen to her, it would have to take two people to do that to her. And what of the son? The one who made that last loving phone call? He was safe with his grandparents, spared the physical horror. But he now inherits a life defined by an absence, his childhood memory forever bookended by a gentle goodnight and a violent, senseless goodbye. This story is more than a crime of passion. It's a case study in modern urban life. How close quarters can turn friction into fire. How a minor, everyday grievance, a dog in a hallway, can, in the wrong conditions, fester into something monstrous. It's about the last threads of human connection, a child's call for love, and a dying woman's call for justice. So, where does this leave us? With two people facing murder charges, one's mental state a pivotal question. With a family shattered. With a community wondering how things spun so far out of control. I want to hear from you. We at True Crime Unraveled read every single comment. Do you think both individuals bear equal responsibility? How should the justice system account for Beyonce Johnson's stated mental health condition at the time? What could have broken this cycle of neighborly anger before it turned deadly? Drop your thoughts below. If this deep dive into a story that's about more than just a crime resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps more people find these important discussions. For more stories that unravel the how and the why behind the headlines, subscribe to True Crime Unraveled on YouTube and follow True Crime Unraveled TV on Facebook and TikTok. We've got more compelling cases coming your way. Until next time, Take care of yourselves and look out for your neighbors.
2 people are now in custody facing murder charges following a gruesome stabbing in Highbridge over the weekend. News 12's Brittany Cadet joins us now from the 44th Precinct with new information this afternoon. Brittany, tell us the update out there.
Yeah, Marcy, police say they've arrested 21-year-old Saleh Ceesay and 24-year-old Beyonce Johnson, who actually also lives in the same building as the victim. They're both now facing murder and manslaughter charges. Police sources say there was actually some kind of a neighbor dispute going on moments before the deadly stabbing of 30-year-old Shashamanie Thompson on Saturday night. Police say they initially were responding to an assault call at 1182 Ogden Avenue, but when they arrived, they found Thompson stabbed in the face and stomach. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. And right now, police have not yet released any information if there is any relationship between the two in custody right now. For now, we're here at the 44th Precinct. I'm Brittany Cadet, News 12, the Bronx.
And now to the Bronx, where a dispute among neighbors escalated into deadly violence over the weekend.
Prosecutors charged a man and a woman with murder after a 30-year-old woman was stabbed to death Saturday night in Highbridge. It was a gruesome scene. Police say one of the suspects held the victim against her will as the other suspect fatally stabbed her in the face and abdomen.
Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles is in Highbridge with the chilling details. Darla?
Sade and Joe, this is a very chilling and complicated story that we've been covering today, that we've been investigating. We have learned that from court this afternoon that 30-year-old Shashamanie Thompson actually identified her killer when police arrived here on the scene. Investigators say that 24-year-old Beyonce Johnson stabbed her in the stomach and in the eye while the boyfriend held the victim back, and one neighbor told us they used to be friends. Monday afternoon, NYPD detectives and investigators from CSU are seen carrying large bags of evidence from this 7-story building on Ogden Avenue in the Highbridge section of the Bronx. Police stationed on the 6th floor, the scene of a grisly stabbing between 2 neighbors Saturday night.
I was home with my girlfriend and I heard yelling, a lot of yelling. I heard somebody screaming, "Help me." I think it happened in the elevator.
Another neighbor telling Eyewitness News off camera that she heard commotion in the elevator, went into the hallway to a bloody scene. 30-year-old Shashamanie Thompson, bleeding profusely, who later died at Lincoln Hospital. That neighbor also telling Eyewitness News that 24-year-old Beyonce Johnson and her boyfriend, 21-year-old Saleh Ceesay, who have both been charged with murder and manslaughter, were inside the elevator.
I heard a girl yelling and I heard the guy, I don't know if that was a boyfriend or whatever, but I heard them fighting. And I heard her screaming for help.
But some neighbors say the victim was often confrontational. But they also say she was seen every day taking her son to school, a dedicated mother.
Like a couple of times, I observed like a female African American, and she was always arguing in front of the building. A couple of times I heard like they were calling, trying to call the cops before in the past.
Now, this afternoon, 21-year-old Saleh Ceesay was held without bail, arraigned in Bronx criminal court this afternoon. As far as 24-year-old Beyonce Johnson, she is still in a hospital recovering from her injuries stemming from this incident. She has not yet been arraigned. Reporting live in the Highbridge section of the Bronx, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
All right.